Are you concerned about the increasing subversion in this blessed country and other countries of the free world, and the spread of wickedness by a giant conspiracy? Would you be interested in reading the Book of Mormon that records the downfall of two great ancient American civilizations as a result of internal secret conspiracies, and contains a warning to us today that when we see these conditions in our midst, that the Lord commands us to awake to our awful situation? For the increasing amount of aid and trade which we are providing the enemy of freedom, you might be interested to know what the Book of Mormon says will happen to a nation that opposes this conspiracy. Would you like to know of the warnings of the prophets about our increasing descent down the soul-destroying road of socialism and what they have told us to do about it? Jesus knew of the calamities that would befall the world, which is one of the reasons why he gave revelations to Joseph Smith and other prophets.
By Stephen Levy, and it's called The Unicorn Secret, Murder in the Age of Aquarius. And you will learn more about high-level New Age networking from that book than almost any other source I can think of. It's about the Earth Day apparatus and the people that surrounded it and all the New Age celebrity networks. And one of the figures in this, Ira Einhorn, who had all sorts of honors and fellowships, hobnobbing with princes in Europe and Asia, and he was meeting with the heads of state in Belgrade, Yugoslavia, to arrange Tesla centenary celebrations. His work was financed heavily by AT&T. Now, Einhorn ran for mayor of Philadelphia in 1972 against Frank Rietzel. He said he kept himself busy 24 hours a day as part of the international conspiracy to make the planet livable. And they said, well, then how would you see yourself? He said, I'm an earthling living on the edge of evolution, at the edge of mind, right before the Great War of Transformation. He was quoted in the book as saying he was involved in a religious war of planet-wide proportions, one that would change the very nature of the way people perceived reality. And the author in the book said, who could have known? Who could have known that when he made the statement back in 1971, proclaimed himself a brother to Charlie Manson, and said psychopaths like myself emerge when it's time for societies to change, that he really was a psychopath? They're talking about blood, death, to anybody who does not share their very limited worldview.
They're talking about a final solution, are they not?
Absolutely, and in many of the books it's phrased just that way, a final solution. Very proud of Jim Jones until 1978 and his Kool-Aid party. And overnight he made a miraculous transformation. He became a born-again Christian. The New Age groups that claimed him so proudly and so openly couldn't give him away fast enough. And he was one of them until I came out and said, you know, hey, here he is. And they're old directories side by side. And here it says his role is to teach Christian socialism as part of the preparation for the New Age.
This is very difficult to accept, but draw some parallels with Nazism and the New Age religion, if you would.
Well, some of the parallels are very, in fact, we've now found some very open ties between the old Nazis and the direct continuation. Hitler was deeply influenced by the writings of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, and this is where he came up with this concept of the master race, the cleansing action, and races like people having their time up and it being time for them to pass from the evolutionary scene. His concept of the Jews was taken from the secret doctrine of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, and she taught that the Jews were a race illicitly cloned by Jehovah to interfere with planetary evolution. The New Age belief is that Lucifer is some form of a great planetary savior who gave up a prized position in heaven to come to Earth and set us on the course of planetary improvement and evolution.
Then they're really Satanists.
Absolutely. Satanists, one way I like to express it is Satanists with Tea Party manners. But Hitler, of course, didn't have the Tea Party manners. We have one of the reason I'm working on a book called The Ezra Pound Connection was he was an important missing link between the New Agers, the modern New Age movement, and the Theosophical Society. he was schooled in Theosophy by Madame Blavatsky's personal secretary, George R.S. Mead, who was the original editor of Lucifer, the Theosophist magazine. And he mentored Ezra Pound and a number of others who ran in those circles, including H.G. Wells. A number of them ran and worked together. Pound schooled others in the United States in this, and Pound made radio broadcasts for Hitler and Mussolini all through World War II. Was due to stand trial on charges of treason and feigned insanity to avoid the treason charges, although maybe he was a little bit crazy. Some of his other friends were in it with him, and they had enough good sense to know when to publicly denounce Hitler, and Pound didn't and continued with his position until after the war. And Pound was in active communication with the Indian Theosophists all through this period of time. That's recounted in the book by one of his disciples.
Are you talking about Near Eastern Indian or American Indian?
No, Near Eastern or Eastern, Far Eastern Indian. The Theosophical Society's world headquarters were located in India. They had a magazine and a branch called the Aryan Path. And one of Pound's close man that Ezra Pound mentored, Eustace Mullins, recounted in his book A Writ for Martyrs that Pound was when he said that when he used the letterhead the Aryan Path, that this referred, or the Aryan League of America, that this referred to a religious group in India, the Aryan Path, with whom Ezra Pound had been in communication. But the concepts are exactly the same. There is a New Age book. It's Lucis Trust, which incidentally used to be called Lucifer Trust, and it's called Prophecy on Trial, the Data Jwal-Cole Alice Bailey Prophecies Analyzed. And in the front is a chart of the races. And it's the old Nazi racial theories exactly. They believe that we're now at the end of the time for the Aryan root race, that it's time for a new species of man to emerge, that new species will come about by a mutation of two factors. One is superior spiritual practices, which usually means the process of going into a trance, into an altered state, and having one's perceptions changed. And the other factor that they say is important is race. Blood, that the new species has to come out of the Aryan root race. And interestingly enough, many New Age books are calling upon people who are American Indian, people who are Eastern in origin, people who are Jewish, to practice celibacy, as they say their races are destined to die out.
And even some of the trappings, some of the symbolism used by Nazism, as I understand, are being used by New Age religionists.
Swastika is a very popular symbol within the New Age movement. Barbara Marx Hubbard is one of the New Age leaders, and you'll find her mentioned too in this book, The Unicorn Secret, Murder in the Age of Aquarius. She was a close friend of Ira Einhorn. And she wrote, she's headed some major New Age efforts, the World Infinite Cooperation. She was a prominent figure in the Harmonic Convergence, August 16th and 17th, which the New Agers said was to launch the start of a 5-year cleansing cycle, and that would culminate in certain actions in 1992. Now, Barbara Marx Hubbard's book, which was used widely for those events, was called The Book of Revelation, the Book of Co-Creation. And in there, she said that 1/4 to 1/2 of the world's population was going to have to die to usher in this new age. And she quoted these voices that were speaking through her, saying, "We come to bring death. We do this for the sake of the planet." And she said that she had, the book contained a guided meditation to help the New Agers go through this period and not have their consciences bother them.
Is she the only one? You say there's a network. Are there other people stressing this theme as well?
Just bear with me for a minute.
Yes.
Okay, this is an important tie. She also is heading some other efforts. There's a dialogue effort with various Protestant fundamentalists. They had a conference at Gold Lake, Boulder, Colorado, and she's also been the key figure in the Soviet-American dialogue process. Now, she invited me to be her personal guest for breakfast at her home in Boulder, Colorado, shortly after the Harmonic Convergence.